The air was thick and heavy, the humid air clinging to us like a second skin. The plane lurched violently, throwing us around like ragdolls. Fear gripped my heart, a knot of anxiety tightening in my chest. We crashed through the dense canopy of the jungle, the plane groaning in protest. The world spun, a chaotic kaleidoscope of green and brown. Then, silence. We were down, in the heart of the jungle.
My little brother Liam lay next to me, his eyes wide with fear. I knew I had to be strong for him.
Liam is on the autism spectrum. He finds comfort in routine and familiarity. This crash, this brutal uprooting was his worst nightmare come true, but he was my brother and I would protect him. I would get us out of this.
The initial shock gave way to a surge of adrenaline. I unbuckled Liam's seatbelt first, his small hand clutching mine like a lifeline. His eyes, usually bright with curiosity, were clouded with fear. "It's okay, Liam," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "We're okay. We're together." I helped him out of the wreckage, my arm a protective barrier between him and the unknown dangers of the jungle.
Liam clung to Ethan, his small frame trembling. The jungle pressed in around them, a wall of green and a symphony of strange sounds. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and rotting vegetation. Ethan took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm. Panic wouldn't help them. He had to be Liam's anchor, his source of strength in this chaotic wilderness.
The jungle was a sensory overload, a cacophony of sounds and smells that assaulted our senses from every direction. Insects buzzed incessantly, their wings creating a constant hum. Birds screeched from the treetops, their calls echoing through the dense forest. Unseen creatures rustled in the undergrowth, adding to the symphony of the wild. The air was thick with humidity, making it hard to breathe. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy above, casting dappled shadows on the forest floor. We were surrounded by towering trees, their ancient trunks stretching high into the sky. Their roots, like gnarled fingers, extended across the ground, threatening to trip us with every step. I knew we couldn't stay here. The wreckage of the plane, now a twisted heap of metal, wouldn't provide shelter for long. It was a temporary refuge at best. We needed to find a safer place, away from the prying eyes of predators that lurked in the shadows. The jungle was teeming with dangers, both seen and unseen.
Liam was overwhelmed. The unfamiliar sights and sounds were too much for him to process. His eyes darted around, wide with fear. He started to rock back and forth, a coping mechanism he often resorted to when overwhelmed. It was his way of finding some semblance of control in the chaos.
"It's okay, Liam," I soothed, pulling him into a hug. I could feel his small body trembling against mine. "We'll find a quiet place, away from all this noise and confusion. Somewhere we can rest and gather our thoughts." I had to be his guide, his protector in this unforgiving wilderness. Every step we took was a step towards safety, a step away from the chaos that surrounded us. Routine. It's a simple word, but it holds immense power, especially in the wild. It was the one thing I knew could bring Liam a semblance of peace in this chaotic environment. The jungle, with its unpredictable nature, was a constant source of stress.
Despite the circumstances, Ethan tried to establish some sense of normalcy. He knew that without a routine, the days would blur into a never-ending struggle for survival.
We woke up with the sun, letting its first light guide our day, and I made a point of always having us wash our faces in a nearby stream. The cool water was refreshing, a small luxury in the midst of our ordeal. Every action, as simple as it seemed, was a step towards regaining control, a way to impose order on the chaos around us. It was a way to combat the overwhelming feeling of helplessness that threatened to consume us. Each task, no matter how mundane, was a victory.
Meals, however meager, were always followed by a brief rest period under the shelter of their rocky overhang. This routine gave them a sense of security, a moment to breathe.
Liam, soothed by the predictability, began to show glimpses of his old self. The routine was working, slowly but surely. He would point out the colorful birds that flitted through the canopy, their vibrant feathers a stark contrast to the green foliage, or marvel at the intricate patterns of the insects that crossed our path. These small wonders brought a sense of normalcy and curiosity back into our lives.
These small moments of joy, however fleeting, were like oxygen to a drowning man. They were reminders that beauty and wonder still existed, even in the harshest conditions. They reminded Ethan that even in the face of adversity, hope could flourish. The routine was more than just a series of tasks. It was a lifeline, a beacon of hope in the wilderness.
The jungle was a different beast at night. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper. The sounds amplified, a chorus of growls, hisses, and chirps that sent shivers down my spine. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, seemed to carry a hidden threat.
Liam, sensitive to every change in his environment, would grow agitated as darkness descended. His eyes would dart around, searching for unseen dangers.
He would cling to me, his small body trembling. His grip was tight, almost desperate, as if letting go would mean losing his only anchor. I knew how much he hated the dark, the way it amplified his fears. It was as if the night itself was a living entity, feeding off his anxiety. The shadows seemed to move, to breathe, making his imagination run wild.
To soothe him, Ethan would sing him the lullaby their mother used to sing. The melody was soft, gentle, a stark contrast to the harshness of the jungle.
It was a simple tune, but it held the power to transport him back to a place of safety and security. Each note was a promise, a whisper of comfort. As I sang, his grip on me would loosen, his fingers slowly unclenching. His breathing would even out, the tension in his small body easing away.
In the heart of the jungle, surrounded by darkness and uncertainty, the familiar melody was a beacon of hope, a lifeline in the sea of fear. It was a reminder of the love and security they longed for, a connection to a world far removed from the dangers of the night.
Finding food was a constant challenge. We scavenged for edible plants, relying on the knowledge I had gleaned from documentaries and survival shows. I was careful to avoid anything that looked remotely poisonous, knowing that one wrong move could have dire consequences. Water was even more crucial. Dehydration was a constant threat in the humid jungle. Each morning we would set out in search of fresh water sources, our senses on high alert for any signs of danger. We were fortunate to find a small stream a few hundred yards from our shelter. It was muddy and teeming with insects, but it was water. I boiled it carefully, using a makeshift fire pit I had constructed, before letting Liam drink. Every sip was a victory, a testament to our will to survive. Days bled into nights, each one a struggle for survival. Liam had his meltdowns, moments of intense frustration and fear that tore at my heart. But I held him close, whispering words of comfort, reminding him that we were in this together. Through it all, our bond only grew stronger. I was his protector, his guide, and he, in his own way, was my strength. He reminded me of the beauty that still existed in the world, even in the heart of darkness. We shared stories, sang songs, and played games using pebbles and sticks. We laughed together, cried together, and faced our fears together. The jungle had stripped away everything familiar, leaving us with nothing but each other. And in that vulnerability, we discovered a depth of love and understanding that I never knew existed. It had been days, perhaps even weeks, since the crash. Time had become fluid, marked only by the rising and setting of the sun. Just as despair threatened to engulf us, a sound pierced the air, a distant whirring, faint but unmistakable. A helicopter. Hope surged through me, a powerful current electrifying my weary limbs. We were not forgotten. Liam, do you hear that? It's a helicopter. We're going to be rescued.
Excitedly, a helicopter? Really?
Yes, Liam, we're going to be rescued.
Grabbing Ethan's hand. I can't believe it! We're going home!